morning, good afternoon, good evening. I've been criticized, to say the least, that I've never spoken in support of war veteran Blessed Geza. And I've also issued many videos criticizing Nelson Chamisa and his MDC-CCC. And the criticism is, if I am truly after democratic change, why am I criticizing them? I think it is a legitimate question, and one that I've tried to answer in the past, and I'll try to answer again today. I do not believe Geza and Chamisa are campaigning for democratic change. Ask yourself, what democratic changes have they ever brought in all the years they've been on the political stage? Ask yourself. Geza has never made it a secret that his criticism of this Mnangagwa regime is because he has fallen out with Mnangagwa. Not that he's against the Zanu A dictatorship per se. Here he is in one of the interviews he gave with Blessed Nyoka, articulating that very point.
Aiwaga. Mirani kutauri imwe zvinhu zvinoitika. Hani ndiri kutokutaurira. Kurauza kuti handina kupusaka because ndiri kutokutaurira utozviziva. You know, takapusaka ndisikakutauriri zvese. We'll deal with this situation at the appropriate time. But ndiri kutotaura kuti commander Mnangagwa, right? Navachiwenga, and right? Ngawa dissolve political bureau. Tikwane isu, but it's very true. Ngawa dissolve cabinet. You know, Zinana Kazembe, Vana Soda, Vadan, how much you tell about Nikupanio? Vanakamba Muda, Vanan, you know, why do you hate your comrades? You know, kunema general, kunema retired CIO wakawanda, kunema retired commissioners of police and other senior officers wakawanda. Haladiwe.
Maybe the president is looking at capacity and capability.
Bullshit. When I'm grade 7, I know capacity and capability. Grade 7. You know, what a beast you're going. Now I was Minister of State, Mangwana Provincial Minister. It's terrible. It's terrible. We are not apologetic about it. Till it. Turn out of Pinda, not out of the president, one was motor, what about you? Don't have a bodyguard.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyat. Why do you want all this?
I want to be rewarded as well. Not to be used like a political condom all the time. I'm not a political condom. And urkoda wanama hiya waya na wamwa.
This is at the heart of the problem. Zanu PF is a party of individuals who believe they have the divine right to rule the country. This is why we are in this mess. That mentality is ingrained in Zanu PF leaders and war veterans, many of them. And as long as this remains, Zimbabwe will never change. What happened in 2017 was one faction of Zanu PF fighting another. They were not fighting to end the dictatorship. They were fighting over who controls it. The mistake that some people made then was to believe that one faction was genuinely committed to democracy. We had the typical picture of VP Chiwenga waving the Constitution and vowing that he was going to defend the Constitution. He staged the 2017 military coup under the pretext that he was defending the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Where in that Constitution is it written that it is lawful to stage a military coup? I know Justice George Chiweshe of the High Court ruled a few weeks after the coup that the coup was justified, legal, and constitutional. He did not quote the chapter and verse in the Constitution to justify that, because there's none. And I think by now, most people would agree that the swapping of Mugabe with Mnangagwa did not advance democracy in Zimbabwe. It just swapped one dictator for another. And our friend Geza has never made it a secret that he wants Chiwenga to take over from Mnangagwa. How can we justify swapping yet another dictator for another dictator and pretend that is democracy? Yes, not. People should stop seeing what they want to see. They should see reality. Chiwenga has been talking about Shukananda, and people have applauded. The irony of it is one of those Shukanandas that is now up in arms against is none other than Tsvangirai. In his divorce proceedings with his last divorced wife, Chiwenga himself submitted in his affidavits that one of the Mercedes-Benz he has, he got it from Tsvangirai. Clear proof that him and Tsvangirai were at one time working together. Tsvangirai did not give Chiwenga the Mercedes-Benz because of his good looks. Let's not be so naive to believe that. Chiwenga is maybe not as rich as Mnangagwa and others, but he too is filthy rich. And it was not from his salary as commander of the army. It's from looting. Chiwenga is as much as Chikananda, corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical as Mnangagwa and the others. Chiwenga would be just another dictator. And it is sickening that anyone should think swapping one dictator for another is progress. The other criticism is MDC, Tsvangirai, and his MDC friends. Let's be very clear here. When the people of Zimbabwe risked their livelihoods, limbs, and many have lost even their lives to elect MDC leaders into positions of power and authority, it was on the understanding that once in power, they will implement the democratic reforms to end the Zanu A dictatorship. Here is Tsvangirai himself acknowledging that very fact.
The governance culture is just replacing one individual with another individual with the same character and same culture. So I think it is foolhardy to think that replacing Mugabe with Emerson Mnangagwa without the fundamental reforms that are needed to transform the institution of governance, then you're wasting your time. You just have the same perpetuation of the same culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How was your working relationship with Mnangagwa during the gym?
Well,
and yet, MDC had the golden opportunity to implement those reforms during the GNU, 2008 to 2013. The primary purpose of the GNU was to implement the democratic reforms. They failed to implement even one token reform. Not even one. Worse still, ever since the GNU debacle, MDC, Triple C have participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed. And worst of all, knowing fully well that by participating, they will be giving Zanu A legitimacy. We cannot keep on going round and round in circles. We cannot deny that they were participating out of greed, as David Coulthard has himself admitted. And this is not the only one. Tendai BT said the same thing. In 2015. But when he turned around and realized that none of his fellow MDC leaders were following him, he too decided to participate in flawed elections. So to keep on saying that the MDC, Chamisa and company are fighting for democratic change in Zimbabwe is naive, to say the least. we really need to face the reality. They are not fighting for change. When MDC guys failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU, they gave up on reforms and started participating in flawed elections to give Zanu-PF legitimacy for the sake of the few gravy train seats that the new Zanu-PF was giving away to entice the opposition to participate. The people of Zimbabwe have to realize that democratic change, the opportunity for democratic change was there. And we've had a number of opportunities and we've wasted it. Starting from 1980, when the country gained its independence, we could have secured a democratic Zimbabwe then. We did not. Other countries like South Africa, when they marked the end of apartheid in 1994, ever since then they've had free, fair, and credible elections. We could have had the same thing. They did not. We had a second bite at the cherry during the 2008 to 2017, 2013 GNU. We should have implemented the democratic reforms then. Alas, we did not. We failed to implement even one token reform. Right now, Chamisa is gearing to participate in 2028 flawed elections. And the usual suspects will be called to participate in those flawed elections on the basis that Chamisa will win big. As long as we participate in our millions, we will be giving Zanu-PF legitimacy. Chamisa is calling Zimbabweans to participate. Bob Marley, the musician, in one of his songs, said, "You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time." That was only half true. You can fool some people all the time, and all the people some of the time. But you cannot fool all the people all the time. That's different. In Zimbabwe, we have shown that you can fool millions of Zimbabweans all the time. And this is what Zanu-PF itself has done. Geza and his friends are doing. Chamisa, and Tsvangirai have done the same thing. Some Zimbabweans out there are so easily conned. It's unbelievable. Come 2028, Chamisa will be telling them he's going to win big the flawed elections. Just as he told them in 2023 that he was going to win those elections, and they believed him. What is more interesting here is that there are millions of Zimbabweans out there who still do not want to believe that Chamisa lied to them. Even something as simple as that. They still refuse to believe it. That is our problem. We want to see what we want to see and not what is there. We want to see Chamisa as the champion of democratic change, but refuse to see what is there, to see Chamisa for who he really is. A liar, corrupt, incompetent, who has failed to implement even one token reform in 25 years. And they now has been conning people to participate in flawed elections to give Zanu A legitimacy and perpetuate the dictatorship. That is the reality. That some people refuse to see. I think even if Zimbabwe was to be given a democratic nation in a silver platter, it will not take long for the people to lose it. They will not hold on to it. Just as we failed to hold on to a democratic Zimbabwe in 1980. And failed again during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. As long as Zimbabweans continue to pretend they can end the pariah state by participating in flawed elections, it only shows to the world that Zimbabweans are not ready for democracy. And the world has no choice but to leave Zimbabweans to stew in our naivety. Yes, I've criticized Chamisa and Geza because they are not after democratic change. That is a fact. Think about it. Thank you.